Are audio listeners more valuable than video viewers?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I can say from my own experience that they spend more money, so they're literally more valuable.
Okay, interesting. Why do you think there's a better arbitrage in the audio side than the viewer? The visual viewer, sorry.
I suppose it takes more commitment to listen to something. It's a bit higher friction.
Okay.
And I think there's something about, I guess, the kind of people who are listening, they might be the kind of people that want to do something else at the same time. And then perhaps they're more productive people who make more money.
Interesting.
Potentially, I don't know.
Do you think podcasts are at its peak?
No, definitely not.
Why not?
Because I think there's still space to innovate. And I think that podcast discovery is literally just getting started. Spotify are kind of, they're just starting to crack this, I think, potentially. But, before this, other than YouTube, which is a video first platform and kind of originally a video platform, there has been just no discovery really in podcasting.
And you operate and run one of the largest health and wellness podcasts with Zoe. What's been the biggest surprises for you running that?
The biggest surprise, I guess, just quite how obsessed people were with health and wellness and nutrition. Because I didn't know going in. This was my. I'd made a lot of different podcasts, and just seeing how this one took off like a rocket, I guess.
And I always find it interesting with Zoe because it's how do you create such an engaging podcast? How do you build the foundations for that?
Yeah. Oh, how long you got?
Oh, mate, plenty of time.
I guess we can kind of break that down if you want to go down that route.
Let's do it. I know you're a massive system thinker, so I was expecting it to come out. Here we go.
Yeah. So I think there's a few pieces there were a few bets that we made at the beginning in terms of how we would make something that could be kind of potentially quite nerdy and complicated appeal to a lot of people. And then bets around finding the white space, not doing what other people were doing. And then I think the combination of those things has come together to make us successful. So, one of them was to outsimplify the competition in a lot of ways. Okay. So we're very intentional about not using so much jargon.
Yeah.
We want to make this understandable, science that can be understood by everyone. Yeah. So that's very intentional. The other thing was, it was kind of obvious to us when we looked around the kind of landscape. It was like they're all 3 hours long.
Yeah,
like that's kind of niche.
Yeah.
So obviously someone needs to do one that's like 50 minutes to an hour. So we kind of keep within that time frame, and that kind of drives a level of concision and simplicity. And then I guess another piece is like, and this is only getting worse now with AI and people being more algorithmically aware, should we say?
Yes.
There's a kind of a race to the bottom in terms of using superlatives, being kind of clickbaity, for want of a better word. Yeah. And that is a game that we play a little bit, right? But we play it intentionally a lot less hard than other people. We won't compromise on being misleading, being too over the top. It's people's health, and I think it's a long play, right? Yeah. We think if we do that in the long term, other people who might come up and then disappear, and hopefully we can stick around.
Rich, you talk about AI and its effects to podcasting, but also the effects on multiple industries.
Yeah.
Do you think we're in a trust deficit right now?
Yeah, I guess we are. I think, it's only going to get a lot worse. The glass half full is that's how you win, I guess.
And it's interesting because there's this concept online about minutes spent with the consumer on a kind of a media consumption.
Yeah.
Do you think podcasts are like the best way to increase those minutes?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'd say so.
And I think what fascinates me, right, because I can imagine there's a lot of people starting their podcasts. Look, we've started ours, and there's been a lot of learnings on our end. The retention, how do you get that retention in the first 5 minutes?
Yeah.
If you were going to walk a brand through those first 5 minutes, what would you say to them?
So there's this concept called the slippery slope, and what it it was kind of discovered by the guys sending out long form letters to try and sell stuff from like, I think from like the 20s. So people have been thinking about retention way before video. And they worked out a lot of this stuff. And I've always thought the slippery slope is like the best analogy.
Okay.
And so what it's basically, the concept is every single sentence and every single word, the only intention of like sentence 1 is to get someone to sentence 2, and sentence 2 is to get someone to sentence 3, and so on, right? And so every single second or sentence that you get somebody past, they're sinking cost. And so therefore over time, it becomes easier to retain them. So like, it's like when you're waiting for a bus, you're like, oh, is it going to come? And then you're like, I've been here 5 minutes. I still don't know if it's going to come, but I've been here 5 minutes, so I kind of need to ride this out. It's the same in content, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can get someone past like the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, you know, like it's a hell of a lot easier once you're past there. And so the tactics are like, I would say really plain language, keep it really simple at the beginning. And then one of my favorite frameworks is but therefore. So when you're giving information, you want to make things into stories because people love stories.
Yeah.
And so stories need to have causation. Yeah. And so when you hear, like to give you an example, right? A kid will often be very boring because they're telling you what they did in the day, and they'll always use and. Yeah. So it'll be like, I went here and then I met my mum and she did this, and then we went to the shop and then we did this. But what you need to do is you need to create causation, right? So you say, I went here, but then there was a problem. Yeah. And that meant that I had to change everything and do this. And then, you know, therefore I did this. And then, so using but therefore is a really good one. And then the other thing is like opening loops or signposting. Okay. And so, I mean, this is really kind of one that anyone can just steal from, that you often hear in Zoe. So what we do is we put out an Insta or a YouTube community post and we say, hey, we're doing a topic about a podcast about, you know, heart disease, for example. What do you guys all want to know about heart disease? And then typically there'll be one question, there'll be one answer, that is way more popular than all the other ones. There's like, you're like, okay, it's clear what people are really here for. Yeah. But we don't want to answer that straight away. So what we'll do is in the beginning, after we've done the opener, we will say, okay, so we've heard like everyone is really interested in heart screening, for example. And we're going to get into that. But first, can we just talk about what this whole heart topic is?
Interesting.
So we just open the most interesting loop that we can do. Yeah. And then we go from there. And the other thing we also do is quickfire questions. And so that's just like a technique we've come up for, like just opening as many loops as we can in quick succession. Yeah. So it's just they're only allowed a yes, no, one sentence answer, has a massive curiosity gap in it. And then so you're asking 5 questions, all really interesting answers, but they're not allowed to really give them, but you know that they're coming, right? And so it's just signposting.
It's interesting. There's a lot of research and a lot of behind the scenes. And for the viewer or the listener, they'll just listen to the podcast. What's been the biggest unlock from a research perspective when you're approaching a podcast? And how much are you in the weeds of that? Yeah. So I've been in the weeds of kind of the whole process from the beginning, and each been handed off. So I guess not so much anymore, but I'm very much still aware of the system, I guess. So in terms of the research, I guess knowing that people love a study, and the reason that I think people love a study is it's because it's kind of like a story. A load of scientists set out to understand this, then the results said this, and this means X for you. It's like a 3-part structure. Yeah. And so when we look at our retention peaks, people love a study. Interesting. Yeah. And that also has something to do with that science. The whole thing about science as a thing, right, is that it's simplifying the chaotic. And people, for as long as we've been around, have been trying to simplify the chaotic. It's the same kind of, it's actually, I compare it to religion often. People see science like religion. They need to look to someone to simplify the chaotic stuff they can't understand. I agree. And so, I mean, I can touch more on the kind of production
the stuff that goes in on the production side, if you like, when you talk about research. I'm not sure if or are you trying to get at something else?
What I'm intrigued by is you started your career with a podcast, like a podcasting agency.
Yeah.
And you did many different types of podcasts, many different niches.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to uncover, and I think the listeners, all the viewers actually in this case, would find interesting, is what did you learn from those previous experiences that have now affected and been deliberate on certain production choices?
Yeah.
So take that wherever you want to.
Yeah. Okay. So I think two things spring to mind. One is the concept of positioning and putting in that work early on to really understand ultimately what you're trying to do.
Okay.
And then the second is about systems. So yeah, going into like positioning, creative strategy, all of that kind of work. I think a lot of people shortcut that because there's this idea from, I think, startups and stuff like that, where it's just like, just ship it, just get it out, just get moving, get learning, whatever. I'm a big fan of that in a lot of ways, but it's not the thing that we're trying to achieve when we go out to build things is around efficiency, right? It's not actually about speed. It's about how do we get to where we want to get to as quickly as possible, rather than just moving fast for the sake of it. That's a stupid idea.
Yeah, agreed.
And so positioning and early creative strategy is one of those things where putting in the time early on will lead to massive returns later, many multiples of the amount of times that if you'd have just ran at something. For example, like the way you communicate and position your show, that's pretty hard to change, right? Yeah. That's a one-way door.
Yeah.
You call it one thing, you kind of choose a format.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to undo once you get going.
Yeah.
And you'll have sunk a lot of costs. So yeah, we spend a lot of time there. And it's a process that I honed over a lot of reps, over a lot of mistakes, tons of learning from, I think with that, like the way I guess I sort of educated myself on creative strategy was from brand strategy rather than from podcasting.
Okay, nice.
So I kind of brought all of that into this new medium, and then just made mistakes and did a load of reps.
What's been the biggest mistake that you've made? I
mean, it's basically like making a show no one wants to listen to, probably more than once. But maybe that's not that useful for someone listening. It's like, definitely just fucked up a few times and made something bad. But I
think there is learning there, because it's. I think a lot of people are scared of failure.
Yeah,
I think there's a fear to fail, but I think it's important. And I think when you said that some of the shows you made no one's listened to, I feel like that's where you get your greatest learning.
Yeah.
So what was the greatest learning for that?
Do you know what? There's an expression that you've probably heard in a number of contexts where it's to meet people where they are. You know about that?
But I want to hear how you. Yeah.
Okay. So like, again, it's how you position your show, whether that's the name, the first line of the description, your thumbnail at that moment when you first meet somebody.
Yeah.
So if you have presented yourself in a way that doesn't meet the position of a potential listener, then it's just going to bounce off them, and they're not going to give you that time and start to go down that slippery slope because you haven't met them where they are. And so, what that means is like getting to know a listener and what they want. So for example, I'll tell you from Zoe where we just nailed it, right? So I went in, it's the most descriptive title ever. It's called Zoe Science and Nutrition. I literally listened
to... I'm not talking about the football, I'm devastated.
So like, we went, it was kind of like lots of deliberation about that, but it's like, no, this is definitely about science and nutrition, and it's by Zoe. I'm going to go with that. And I think that was possibly one of the most valuable things I did for Zoe, is to call it that. In fact, they repositioned the company after the podcast because the podcast got so big.
It's just like, name it, meet them where they're at, name it exactly.
Describe, and then like, and then if you think about all the topics that we go with, They're because I know that, like, we're in a fortunate position now. We have a big audience.
Yeah.
I'm exposed to so much feedback. I know my audience. I know what their interests are. Occasionally I'll deviate to, like, you've got to take bets every now and then test, and we do that. I mean, that's actually probably another thing to touch on, but we'll deviate outside of that on, say, 1 in 9 or so episodes.
Yeah.
And of those ones where we deviate really far from what we know they're kind of into, maybe 1 in 5 of those we'll learn something good. Most of the time we just realise again, they weren't interested. But you've got to take bets outside of, you know. Yeah.
Okay, so essentially, how does a company go about creating a culture where experimentation and big bets can be placed?
So a couple of things. One, I would say on experimentation is to hold people accountable to the inputs, not the outcomes or the outputs. So basically it's like, I'll say, for example, my amazing production coordinator, Amy, I'll just say, so from here until next week, I want 2 experiments to happen. And so therefore there must be a hypothesis, a way to prove whether it was successful or not.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, deliver that result based on that metric. I'm going to give you a really specific example of one that worked really well.
Okay.
At the end of the quickfire questions, we say to people, you have a 1-sentence answer for this, but you're only allowed 1 sentence. What we discovered was, if they answer in 2 or 3 meandering sentences versus actually answering 1 punchy sentence, that dictates how well our CTA converts. It was awesome. And so the reason is because content is all about making and delivering on promises.
Yes.
And so we're saying, we're going to give you a 1-sentence answer. If we don't do it, then we ask for something. After that, people are like, nah, you don't deliver any promises. I'm not feeling reciprocal. That would be one example. But so basically, by just saying that, all I'm holding you accountable to is the input. So the fact that you've done the test, not whether the test works or not. That completely removes any fear of failure, because, you know, I'm saying, I don't care if it works or not. All I care about is that you did the test. So I think accountability to the inputs is a really good one.
Not on the output, because if it's dictated on the output and nothing happens, then they'll feel bad about themselves. Yeah,
they'll do less tests. They'll just be like, well, I did an experiment, it didn't work, that was painful, I won't experiment again.
Yeah.
So if you just say, all I care about is that you experiment, and then holding people accountable to that, then you know, experimentation ensues.
We touched on it, I think right at the beginning of the episode, actually. You talk about innovation.
Yeah.
And I really want to kind of get your view on this. Where do you see the future of podcasting?
So this is one of these
annoying ones, because a person that predicts the future is often a fool.
Yeah.
But
often wrong. But it's also, I've got to say, I think that people talk about this a lot online, and it's like, there may be some future that I can't imagine, but also the thing around this tends to be just quite boring. There'll be different ways of how audio and video merge, and we're getting, like, right now we're in this place where it's all becoming a lot more like TV. But then ultimately, like, radio's still here. It's not gone anywhere. I think there's space for both.
Agreed.
They're going to change in some way or another. Discovery in audio is going to become good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I think that's cool. I also think there's a ton of people who want to listen while doing other stuff, who just ultimately prefer listening, seeing as we're looking at screens all day, and like, here's a nice medium where you don't need to. So I think audio's, you know, I think audio is going to keep growing, and I think video will keep growing and become probably something different. There will be more of a diversity of formats. People will crack some more, you know, approaches.
But it's, I don't know. I often find with podcasts, as you said, it's the ones that are full of jargon. Often you just, again, you don't go down the slippery slope. And I think what I would love to know from you and from your experience is, and you've probably mentioned it before in the episode, but I just want it really concrete.
Yeah.
A brand comes to you.
Yeah.
And they say, I'm starting a podcast in 2026.
Yeah.
What are the 3 key decisions they need to make?
Who it's for, what it's about, what the promise is. So therefore, by listening to this episode or this show, how is my life going to change?
Rich, you're about to become a father very soon.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Yeah, really excited. Yeah.
Let's really deep dive on the excitement. What are you excited about? What are you nervous about?
I'm nervous about the unknown. So like it's almost like I don't know what I don't know, right? I'm gonna be faced with that. So I'm in a place of huge uncertainty. What am I excited about? There's going to be this like peak of love and experience that I've never experienced before. But then there's probably going to be like, to match that, because the world seems to work like this, right? There's going to be this trade-off of really, it's going to be really hard. Yeah. But it's probably going to be the best thing I ever do, I'm sure. So
it's interesting. I often wonder to myself whether if people choose to have a family or not, if you choose to have a family, is that the greatest purpose of all, to have a family? Yeah. What do you think about that statement?
I think that a lot of people who've done it would agree. And so I don't know yet, but watch this space.
Watch this.
But yeah, it's funny. I went out for dinner with a couple of friends last night, and that was generally the consensus. Yeah. They were like, you just kind of realize, oh, this was the point of us being alive. So that sounds really good.
Have you always wanted a family growing up? From Devon, is that right?
Yeah, from Devon.
Yep. I did my research.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I guess I have. I haven't thought about it. It hasn't been like front and center. Yeah. For I've been kind of work first person, but then I guess you get older, and then also just being fortunate enough to have met the most amazing person. And then I think that's the big thing, right? You meet the right person and suddenly you think, oh, this could be it. This could be great. Yeah. And then previously, without meeting someone fantastic, I guess it's a little bit
daunting, isn't it? Because you think, I don't know, it's interesting. I'd love to hear your view on this, but I think a lot of people that I've spoken to, they work very hard for a family that they haven't got yet, but they want to make the sacrifice now. Yeah. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I think it's probably a really good idea as well. Yeah. Like, that's a good time to make sacrifice before you've got so many dependencies. I guess the other argument could be that there's always a trade-off.
Precisely.
Right? So the other side of it is you're only young once. Yeah. And so do you want more of these kind of these peak crazy experiences that you can only do when you're say 20 or 30? Yeah, I guess there's probably something in that. There's probably some sort of balance.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I often say, you pay the price in advance, something that my mother taught me at a very early age, and I think there is that trade-off. And this question actually came from your response to fatherhood, and it's you talked about uncertainty. How do you approach uncertainty different to other people may?
My approach is to acknowledge that uncertainty is a certainty. Okay. But that you should remove every single piece you can quite intentionally, I think, before you go into things. And I'd say actually it's funny because that's one of those questions that sounds kind of like a kind of broad and philosophical question, but actually it's one in a very practical way that I use every single day in work. And I think it's like, so we're approaching a project, and there'll be a lot of conversation, there'll be collaboration, there'll be ideas, and there'll be a point where you crystallize things into something that you make as concrete as you can possibly make. Yeah. And say, here's what we do know, here's what we don't know. Yeah. But just being really specific about where those gaps of uncertainty are. And I would actually say it's one of the big things where I see people really mess up, because again, it kind of comes back to that efficiency over speed thing, right? It's like, here's one time where taking an idea that's a bit mushy, making it crystallizing it to be as concrete as it can possibly be, and then moving means you achieve your goals in a fraction of the time.
In a way, it's by mapping the variables, the certain ones and the uncertain ones, you allow to draw yourself a bigger picture. Yeah. But do you think AI is actually annoyingly put gasoline on a lot of fires where the fire was never actually starting, but because it's a speed and it looks fast, it's impressive?
Yeah, I think AI, it'll be really interesting to see quite how catastrophic this is. But like, if you think about, like, so someone the other day said, I've started a business and I got AI to build all of my back-end documentation. And I was like, Okay, so it's like the foundation, like you have no idea what's in the foundation of your business that you're then acting on.
Yeah.
It seems mental. And I think that a lot of the best people, they really understand the foundation and the context upon which they're working.
Yeah.
And then they're making decisions. And so the idea that AI is just going to churn out a load of stuff and then people are going to work based on this stuff which has gaps in it, and also they actually don't even understand the stuff because they didn't write it or make it. So I think that's pretty worrying. Yeah.
I think for me personally, and I'd love to kind of hear what your view on this kind of last statement is that I think people automate the wrong part of the process.
Yeah.
I think the actual learning part of any journey does not need to be sped up. That's not the efficient part. When you've nailed the positioning, you've nailed this, then you can be efficient.
Yeah.
But I think so many people focus on they're like, oh, let me do this really, really quickly. It's like, no, you're actually depriving yourself from a great learner. You're not learning the fundamentals you need to.
Yeah.
It's like business, like finances. You can get AI to analyze a company's house report, but that's not going to mean that you understand the numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Agreed.
if there's a student coming out of university, my last question now, and they're looking at their career, what advice would you give them?
I would say learn to become a really good marketer for yourself, and specifically learn that you being successful is basically your ability to create value for either a customer or the company that you work for.
Fully agree.
So it's not about you.
No.
And so the way that you present yourself to other people should not be about you. This is like the number one thing I see when I'm looking at like job stuff. Yeah. And it is like this.
Me. It's like, how do you make your money, or do you save me money?
There you go. Exactly that. Yeah. It's like, I don't know you yet. I don't really care about you. Talk to me about me if you can. Like what value, again, meet me where I am. Sat here thinking about myself.
Does this person make me money or save me money?
Yeah.
Or a headache? And then it's just put them in the pot. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk in the terms of the person that you're speaking to, I think is a really good one. And then the other part would be around the amount of bets you take. So I think one thing I look back on that I wish I had known earlier, I've got stuck a few places that didn't take me anywhere for way too long. And actually what I needed to do was up my rate of bets to wait for one that was a big spike in, and then double down. But I kind of got talked into by, I guess, like parents and society to like stick at this for a bit. For example, like I wish I dropped out of university. What for me, what a waste of time that was.
Yeah.
But and I spent 3 years doing, it was kind of valuable. But I'm sure if I'd have started a business then, that would have been way more fulfilling and useful, I guess, and lucrative probably.
Rich, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers.
And it's great to call you a friend.
Yeah,
Thank
likewise.
You.